Sometimes the most extraordinary encounters happen in the most ordinary moments. Picture this: a man worth billions of dollars, sitting alone in a city park on a Tuesday afternoon, watching the world go by. Across from him, a young girl with worn clothes and a cardboard sign, quietly setting up a chessboard she found in a dumpster behind a community center. What happens next will challenge everything you think you know about genius, opportunity, and the power of human connection. This isn't just another feel-good story about charity or kindness. This is about the moment when two completely different worlds collide, and both lives are changed forever. It's about a girl whose brilliance was hidden behind circumstances beyond her control, and a man who discovered that true wealth isn't always measured in bank accounts. In the next few minutes, you'll witness how a simple game of chess became the catalyst for one of the most remarkable transformations in recent history. You'll see how talent can emerge from the most unexpected places, and how sometimes the teacher becomes the student. This story will make you question your assumptions about success, intelligence, and what it really means to make a difference in someone's life. Get ready for a journey that starts with curiosity and ends with something much more profound than either person could have imagined. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves through Central Park as Marcus Wellington adjusted his expensive watch and loosened his silk tie. At 62, he had built an empire that spanned 3 continents, owned properties that most people could only dream of, and commanded respect in boardrooms across the world. Yet on this particular Tuesday afternoon, he found himself seeking something money couldn't buy, a moment of peace away from the endless demands of his corporate empire. Marcus had dismissed his driver an hour earlier, choosing to walk through the park instead of heading straight back to his penthouse. The weight of his latest acquisition deal pressed heavily on his mind. Another company purchased, another 1,000 employees whose lives would change based on his decisions. The responsibility had become overwhelming lately, leaving him questioning whether his success had cost him his humanity. As he approached a quieter section of the park, away from the joggers and tourists, his attention was drawn to a small figure sitting cross-legged on a weathered park bench. The girl appeared to be around 12 years old, her dark skin glowing despite the obvious signs of hardship etched into her young face. Her clothes, though clean, showed the telltale signs of being worn repeatedly. A worn backpack sat beside her, and a small cardboard sign leaned against the bench leg, though Marcus couldn't make out the words from his distance. What captured his attention wasn't her circumstances, but what she was doing. On the bench beside her sat an old chess set, the pieces arranged with the precision of someone who understood the game. The board itself looked like it had seen better days. Several squares were faded, and one of the black pawns had been replaced with what appeared to be a small button. Yet the girl studied the position with an intensity that reminded Marcus of the grandmasters he'd watched during his college years when he briefly considered pursuing chess seriously. Marcus found himself walking closer, drawn by curiosity. As a young man, he had been quite skilled at chess, even representing his university in several tournaments before business school consumed his time. The strategic thinking that made him successful in corporate mergers had its roots in those early chess lessons his father had insisted upon. The girl noticed his approach and looked up with eyes that held far more wisdom than her age should have allowed. There was no fear in her gaze, no immediate request for money or food that Marcus had expected. Instead, she simply nodded politely and returned her attention to the chessboard. "Interesting position," Marcus found himself saying, stopping a few feet away. "The Queen's Gambit opening, if I'm not mistaken." The girl looked up again, this time with a spark of genuine interest. "Yes, sir. But White declined the gambit and went for the King's Indian setup instead. It's creating some really interesting tension in the center of the board." Marcus was surprised by her articulate response and the confidence in her voice. He gestured toward the bench. "Mind if I sit? It's been years since I've seen someone my age who appreciates chess." A small smile crossed her lips. "I'm not sure how old you think I am, sir, but you're welcome to sit. I'm always happy to talk about chess." As Marcus settled onto the bench, he got a better look at the chess position. What he saw made him pause. The arrangement wasn't random or based on a simple tutorial position. This was a complex middle game scenario that would challenge even experienced players. The pieces were positioned in a way that suggested multiple possible strategies, each with its own risks and rewards. Are you playing against someone? Marcus asked, genuinely curious. Playing against myself, mostly, the girl replied, moving a knight to a square that immediately opened up new possibilities for both sides. I like to work through different scenarios, see how the position changes based on different choices. This position came from a game I studied in a book I found at the library. Which book? Marcus inquired, his interest growing. My System by Aaron Nimzowitsch. The librarian helped me find it after I told her I wanted to learn more about chess strategy. I've read it cover to cover 3 times now. Marcus nearly dropped his briefcase. Nimzowicz's work was considered advanced reading even for serious chess students. The fact that a 12-year-old not only found it but studied it multiple times suggested a level of dedication and intelligence that was remarkable. That's quite an advanced text, Marcus said carefully. What did you think of his ideas about overprotection and blockading? The girl's eyes lit up with excitement. Oh, those concepts changed everything for me. Before reading that book, I thought chess was just about attacking the king and capturing pieces. But Nimzowitsch showed me that chess is really about controlling space and time. Like, if you can restrict your opponent's piece mobility while improving your own position, you're essentially winning without them even realizing it's happening. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Not only had she understood Nimzowicz's complex positional concepts, but she was explaining them with a clarity that suggested deep comprehension. In his business world, he'd met Harvard graduates who couldn't articulate strategic concepts as clearly as this young girl just had. How long have you been playing chess? Marcus asked, settling more comfortably on the bench. About 8 months, I think. Maybe 9. The girl moved another piece on her board, creating what Marcus recognized as a powerful pawn structure. I learned the basic moves from watching people play here in the park, but I didn't really understand the game until I started reading about it. 8 months. Marcus couldn't hide his astonishment. And you're already studying Nimzowitsch? The girl shrugged modestly. I like puzzles and patterns. Chess is both. Plus, the library is warm and quiet, so I spend a lot of time there. The librarian, Mrs. Chun, keeps recommending new books for me to read. Marcus began to understand her situation without needing to ask direct questions. The worn clothes, the time spent in libraries, the fact that she was in the park alone on a school day, it all painted a picture he was beginning to recognize. Would you like to play a game? Marcus heard himself asking. I mean, if you have time. I should warn you, though, I used to be pretty decent back in college. The girl's smile was radiant. I'd love to, but I should tell you, I don't really know how good I am since I mostly play against myself or work on puzzles from books. You might have to go easy on me. As they reset the board, Marcus couldn't help but notice the care with which she handled each piece, despite their worn condition. Her fingers moved with the delicate precision of someone who valued what they had, regardless of its monetary worth. I'm Marcus, by the way, he said as they arranged the pieces. I'm Zara, she replied, placing the last pawn in position. Thank you for wanting to play with me. Most people just walk past when they see me here. Their loss, Marcus said, and meant it. White or black? You can be white, Zara said generously. I like playing black anyway. There's something interesting about responding to someone else's plans while developing your own. Marcus opened with his usual e4, a classical king's pawn opening that had served him well in countless games over the years. Zara responded with c5, the Sicilian defense, an aggressive and complex response that immediately signaled she wasn't planning a quiet, defensive game. As they played the first few moves, Marcus found himself increasingly impressed by Zara's choice of moves. She wasn't playing hope chess or making random moves. Each piece development followed logical principles while simultaneously creating subtle pressure on his position. By move 10, Marcus realized he was facing an opponent unlike any he'd encountered in years. Where did you learn the Sicilian defense? Marcus asked as Zara castled queenside, a bold choice that immediately shifted the game's dynamic. From a book about Bobby Fischer, Zara replied, studying the position intently. He said the Sicilian was the best way to play for a win as black, because you're not just trying to equalize, you're creating immediate imbalances that can lead to attacking chances. Marcus nodded appreciatively. Fischer's aggressive approach to chess was legendary, but understanding when and how to apply those principles required sophisticated judgment. As the game progressed, he watched Zara demonstrate exactly that kind of judgment. Move after move, her pieces coordinated in ways that created mounting pressure on his position. She wasn't just following opening principles she'd memorized. She was adapting to the specific characteristics of their game, finding moves that fit the position's unique requirements. When Marcus attempted a standard kingside attack, Zara calmly redirected her forces to defend while simultaneously building counterplay on the opposite side of the board. By move 25, Marcus realized something extraordinary was happening. Not only was he not winning, he was gradually being outplayed by strategic concepts he'd thought were beyond a beginner's understanding. Zara's position was becoming increasingly active while his own pieces were slowly being restricted to passive roles. "You said you've only been playing 8 months?" Marcus asked as Zara executed a brilliant exchange sacrifice that opened lines toward his king. "About that, yes," Zara replied, her concentration never wavering from the board. "Though I think about positions a lot when I'm not actually playing. Sometimes I work through games in my head when I'm trying to fall asleep." Marcus made his next move more carefully, realizing that his usual tactics weren't working against someone who seemed to anticipate his plans before he'd fully formed them himself. This wasn't beginner's luck or random success. This was genuine chess understanding at a level that typically took years to develop. As the sun began to set behind them, casting long shadows across the chessboard, Marcus found himself in a position he hadn't experienced in decades. He was being thoroughly outplayed by someone who approached the game with a natural intuition that couldn't be taught. Every exchange seemed to favor Zara's pieces, every pawn structure seemed to work in her favor, and every tactical opportunity seemed to appear just when she needed it. The businesswoman in Marcus recognized what he the next morning found Marcus in his corner office on the 42nd floor. But his mind wasn't on the quarterly reports spread across his mahogany desk. Instead, he kept replaying the chess game from the previous afternoon, analyzing not just the moves, but the thought processes behind them. In 30 years of high-stakes business negotiations, he'd developed an eye for recognizing exceptional talent, and what he'd witnessed yesterday transcended anything he'd encountered. Marcus had spent the evening researching child chess prodigies, diving into stories of players like Capablanca, Fischer, and, more recently, Magnus Carlsen. What struck him wasn't just Zara's tactical ability, but her positional understanding, something that typically took years of study to develop. The way she'd systematically improved her pieces while restricting his options showed a level of strategic thinking that reminded him of the greatest masters he'd ever studied. His assistant, Jennifer, knocked and entered with his morning coffee. "Sir, you asked me to research local chess clubs and youth programs?" "Yes, what did you find?" Jennifer placed a folder on his desk. "There are several programs in the city, ranging from beginner classes to competitive training. The Manhattan Chess Club has the strongest youth program, and there's also the Fischer Chess Academy in Brooklyn that specifically works with talented young players who might not otherwise have access to high-level instruction." Marcus opened the folder, scanning through the information. "What about private coaching? The best instructors available?" I compiled a list of internationally rated masters who offer private lessons. The fees range from $100 to $300 per hour, depending on their rating and experience. There's also information about chess software, training databases, and tournament entry requirements. "Perfect. I want you to contact the Fischer Chess Academy and inquire about their scholarship programs. Also, reach out to this international master." Marcus pointed to a name on the list, David Petrov. "Tell him I'd like to discuss a potential student evaluation." Jennifer made notes efficiently. "Should I mention this is time-sensitive?" "Very time-sensitive. I'd like to meet with someone from the academy today if possible, and I want to arrange for Mr. Petrov to be available this evening." After Jennifer left, Marcus found himself staring out at the city skyline, thinking about potential and opportunity. In business, he'd learned that timing was everything. The right investment at the right moment could transform entire industries. But this wasn't about money or markets. This was about a young person whose extraordinary abilities were currently hidden from the world that could nurture them. His phone buzzed with a text from his driver. "Sir, should I prepare the car for your usual route to the office tomorrow?" Marcus typed back quickly. "Change of plans. Tomorrow afternoon, take me to Central Park." Same location as yesterday. He spent the rest of the morning distracted, delegating meetings to his senior partners and rearranging his schedule. By lunchtime, Jennifer had arranged for him to meet with Dr. Sarah Martinez, the director of the Fisher Chess Academy, and confirmed that International Master Petrov would be available for a consultation that evening. Dr. Martinez arrived at Marcus's office at 2 o'clock, a woman in her 50s with the sharp, analytical eyes of someone who spent her days evaluating young minds. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who had dedicated her career to identifying and developing chess talent. Mr. Wellington, Jennifer mentioned you're interested in our scholarship programs. May I ask what sparked your interest in youth chess development? Marcus had prepared for this question. Yesterday, I encountered a young player whose ability impressed me significantly. I believe she has potential that deserves proper evaluation and support. Can you tell me about her background, current rating, tournament experience, training history? That's where the situation becomes interesting, Marcus replied. She's entirely self-taught, has been playing for less than a year, and has never played in a tournament. Yet yesterday she defeated me in a game that demonstrated positional understanding I wouldn't expect from players with years of experience. Dr. Martinez raised an eyebrow. Self-taught for less than a year? What's her age? Approximately 12, though I didn't ask specifically. She's been studying advanced chess literature and appears to have absorbed concepts that typically challenge much older students. Mr. Wellington, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you should know that we encounter many parents and sponsors who overestimate young players' abilities. What you might interpret as advanced play could simply be memorized patterns or beginner's luck in a single game. Marcus had anticipated this skepticism. Dr. Martinez, I've been playing chess for over 40 years. I represented my university in intercollegiate competition and have maintained an active interest in the game throughout my career. What I witnessed yesterday wasn't luck or pattern recognition. This young person demonstrated genuine understanding of complex strategic concepts. Even so, one game isn't enough to evaluate potential. True talent reveals itself through consistency across multiple games and different types of positions. Which is exactly why I'd like to arrange for proper evaluation. Would it be possible for one of your instructors to assess her abilities? Dr. Martinez considered this. We do offer evaluation sessions for potential scholarship candidates. However, our resources are limited, and we typically require some evidence of serious commitment before investing time in assessment. Marcus leaned forward. What if I were to sponsor the evaluation process? And if her abilities prove as exceptional as I believe, what if I were to fund her training through your program? The change in Dr. Martinez's demeanor was subtle but noticeable. That would certainly make evaluation possible. Our most thorough assessment involves testing pattern recognition, tactical calculation, in-game knowledge, and game analysis. We also evaluate learning capacity by introducing new concepts and measuring comprehension speed. How long would such an evaluation take? Typically a full day. We'd want to see her play against various opponents, solve tactical puzzles, analyze positions, and demonstrate understanding of different game phases. If she's as talented as you suggest, the evaluation would also include recommendations for development pathways. Marcus felt the familiar rush of a business deal coming together. Excellent. I'd like to arrange this as soon as possible. There's just one consideration. The young woman's current circumstances suggest she might not have traditional parental support for this process. That's not uncommon among our scholarship candidates. Many talented young players come from backgrounds where chess isn't a family priority. We're equipped to work directly with motivated students, regardless of their support structure at home. They spent the next hour discussing the Academy's programs, coaching methodologies, and success stories. Marcus learned that their scholarship recipients had gone on to earn master titles, university scholarships, and, in several cases, international recognition. What impressed him most was the Academy's commitment to developing not just chess skills, but critical thinking abilities that translated into academic and professional success. After Dr. Martinez left, Marcus found himself counting the hours until evening. International Master Petrov arrived at 7 o'clock sharp, a compact man in his 40s with the focused intensity that Marcus had come to associate with serious chess players. His Russian accent carried the authority of someone who had spent decades studying the game at the highest levels. "Mr. Wellington, I understand you wish to discuss a young player's evaluation." Jennifer mentioned some unusual circumstances. Marcus explained yesterday's encounter, emphasizing the specific moves and concepts Zara had demonstrated. Petrov listened intently, occasionally asking for clarification about particular positions or strategic choices. "You say she discussed Nimzowich's positional concepts, specifically overprotection and blockading?" With remarkable clarity. She didn't just know the terminology, she understood the practical application. Petrov nodded slowly. These concepts are difficult for experienced players. If 12-year-old truly grasps such ideas after 8 months of study, this would be very unusual. "May I ask about her other chess knowledge? Opening theory, endgame principles." "We didn't discuss those areas extensively, but her game showed understanding of piece coordination and pawn structure that suggested broader knowledge." "Mr. Wellington, in my experience coaching young talents, exceptional ability usually reveals itself through specific characteristics. Rapid calculation of variations, intuitive understanding of piece values in complex positions, ability to find creative solutions under pressure. Did you observe these qualities?" Marcus thought carefully before responding. "What struck me most was how she seemed to anticipate the consequences of moves several steps ahead. When I attempted tactical sequences, she had already calculated the resulting positions and prepared appropriate responses. It felt less like she was reacting to my moves, and more like she was guiding the game toward positions that favored her pieces. This suggests strong visualization and planning ability. Very important qualities." Petrov paused thoughtfully. "I would be willing to conduct evaluation session, but I must warn you. Many promising young players plateau quickly when they encounter properly structured training. Natural talent must be combined with discipline and systematic study to achieve significant results. And if she demonstrates the potential we suspect, then we would be looking at possible grandmaster candidate. But this is very rare. I have evaluated hundreds of young players in my career. Perhaps 5 had potential for international titles. Of those, only 2 achieved significant results." Marcus felt both excitement and soberness at Petrov's words. What would proper development require? Intensive training schedule, multiple hours daily of study, tactics practice, game analysis, tournament play to gain experience, and official rating. Access to database of master games, modern chess software, training with other strong players. Petrov outlined a comprehensive development plan that would consume significant time and resources. And the cost of such training? For student with true potential? Perhaps $50,000 to $70,000 annually for coaching, tournament travel, study materials, software. This assumes full-time commitment to improvement. Marcus absorbed this information. The financial investment was insignificant compared to his usual business expenditures, but the commitment required from Zara would be enormous. What's the typical timeline for a talented young player to reach master level? Depends on starting ability and training intensity. Exceptionally gifted student with proper support might achieve master title in 3 to 4 years. Grandmaster title, if reachable at all, typically requires 8 to 12 years of serious training. As their meeting concluded, Marcus found himself facing a decision that went far beyond financial considerations. What he was contemplating could completely alter a young person's life trajectory, opening doors to opportunities she couldn't currently imagine. But it would also require her to commit to a path that demanded sacrifice, discipline, and years of intensive effort. Marcus arrived at the park 30 minutes earlier than the previous day, carrying a leather briefcase that contained something he'd never brought to a business meeting, a high-end tournament chess set with weighted pieces and a regulation board. The morning air was crisp, and the park was quieter than usual, giving him time to organize his thoughts before what he hoped would be a life-changing conversation. When Zara appeared, walking along the same path as yesterday, Marcus noticed details he'd missed before. Her backpack was carefully patched in several places, but the repairs were neat and purposeful. Her shoes were worn but clean, and she carried herself with a dignity that spoke to inner strength developed through facing challenges most adults never encountered. "Good morning, Marcus." she said with a smile that seemed genuinely pleased to see him. I wasn't sure if you'd come back. Most people I meet don't return for a second game. I promised myself I'd get a rematch, Marcus replied, gesturing to the bench. Besides, I brought reinforcements. He opened his briefcase to reveal the tournament set, its pieces gleaming in the morning sunlight. Zara's eyes widened with appreciation. Those are beautiful pieces. I've only seen sets like this in pictures from chess magazines at the library. They're yours to use whenever we play, Marcus said, beginning to set up the board. A proper game deserves proper equipment. As they arranged the pieces, Marcus studied Zara's handling of the new set. Her fingers seemed to understand the weight and balance of quality pieces immediately, and she positioned them with the same careful precision she'd shown with her worn set. There was reverence in her touch, the kind of respect for the game that serious players developed over years of study. Zara, before we start playing, I'd like to ask you something. What do you think about chess as more than just a hobby? Have you ever considered studying it seriously? She looked up from the board, her expression thoughtful. I think about that sometimes. When I read about players like Capablanca or Fischer, I wonder what it would be like to really understand the game the way they did. But I've never met anyone who could teach me beyond what I can learn from books. What if you could? What if there were opportunities to study with masters, to play in tournaments, to really develop your abilities? Zara's response was careful, showing wisdom beyond her years. That sounds like something that would cost money I don't have. And even if I did, I'm not sure I'm good enough to deserve that kind of attention. Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness at her self-doubt. Yesterday, you played a game that impressed me more than matches I've watched between titled players. Your understanding of positional concepts was remarkable, but I've only been playing for 8 months. Real players have been studying for years. Sometimes natural ability matters more than time spent studying. Let me ask you this. Would you be interested in playing a few games with someone who could properly evaluate your potential? Zara's eyes lit up with cautious excitement. You mean like a real chess teacher? Exactly like that. I know people who work with talented young players, and they'd be able to tell you much more accurately than I can about your abilities and what kind of development might be possible. Would this cost money? Because I should tell you, I can't afford lessons or anything like that. Marcus had prepared for this moment. What if I told you that I believe your talent is worth investing in? Not because I want anything in return, but because I think chess and the world would be better if your abilities were properly developed. Zara studied his face carefully, and Marcus could see her mind working through the implications. Why would you do that for someone you just met? Because yesterday you showed me something I haven't seen in years, pure love for the game combined with extraordinary natural ability. In my business, I've learned to recognize potential when I see it. And what I see in you is the kind of talent that deserves every opportunity to flourish. They played their second game while discussing possibilities. Marcus had hoped to observe her play more carefully this time, looking for the specific qualities that Petrov had mentioned. What he discovered was that yesterday's performance hadn't been a fluke. If anything, Zara's play seemed even sharper, as if the night's reflection had refined her understanding of the positions they'd explored. This time she chose the queen's gambit as white, demonstrating familiarity with multiple opening systems. Her piece development followed classical principles while creating subtle imbalances that gradually accumulated into significant advantages. When Marcus attempted a tactical sequence he'd prepared overnight, Zara not only refuted it, but found a counter combination that left his position compromised. You've been studying last night, Marcus observed as she executed a beautiful knight maneuver that improved her position while restricting his bishop. I replay our game in my head before falling asleep, Zara admitted. I kept thinking about the position where you played bishop to g5, and I realized I could have responded more aggressively. Show me what you found. Zara set up the position from memory and demonstrated her improved line of play. Marcus watched in amazement as she displayed perfect recall not just of the position, but of the multiple variations she'd calculated hours after their game had ended. The analysis she presented was sophisticated, considering factors like piece activity, pawn structure, and king safety in ways that integrated seamlessly. Zara, what you're showing me right now, this level of analysis, this is what strong players do to improve. The fact that you're doing it naturally, without any guidance, is extraordinary. Is it? It just seems logical to think about how positions could be improved. Most players never develop that habit, even with coaching. The ability to analyze your games critically and find improvements is what separates serious students from casual players. As they finish their second game, another victory for Zara, achieved through patient positional pressure that gradually strangled his counterplay. Marcus felt confirmed in his assessment of her abilities. This wasn't luck or beginner's fortune. This was genuine chess talent at a level that demanded development. Zara, I'd like to arrange for you to meet with some people who are much better qualified than I am to evaluate your chess abilities. Would you be willing to spend a day working with professional instructors? What kind of day? They would have you play several games, solve chess puzzles, analyze positions, and demonstrate your understanding of different aspects of the game. It would be thorough, but it would give us a clear picture of your current level and what kind of training might benefit you most. Zara was quiet for a long moment, staring at the chess pieces. And if they think I'm not as good as you believe, then we'd know that too. And it wouldn't change anything about our friendship or your love for the game. But, Zara, I've been playing chess for 4 decades, and I've never encountered anyone who plays the way you do after 8 months of study. I think the evaluation will confirm what I already suspect. What do you suspect? Marcus chose his words carefully. I suspect you have the kind of talent that comes along maybe once in a generation. The kind that, with proper training and support, could take you anywhere you want to go in the chess world. You mean like becoming a master? I mean like becoming whatever you want to become. Master, Grandmaster, World Championship candidate. I don't think any of those goals would be beyond your reach with the right development. Zara looked up at him with an expression that mixed hope with disbelief. You really think I could be that good? I think you already are that good, at least in terms of raw ability. The question is whether you want to develop that ability and what you're willing to commit to making it happen. What would development mean? What would I have to do? Marcus explained what he'd learned from Dr. Martinez and Petrov about serious chess training. The daily study requirements, tournament play, intensive coaching sessions, database analysis, and tactical training. He watched Zara's expression carefully, looking for signs of either enthusiasm or intimidation. That sounds like it would be my whole life, Zara said finally. It would be a significant commitment. Chess at the highest levels requires dedication that most people aren't willing to make. But, for someone with your talent, it could also open doors to opportunities you can't currently imagine. University scholarships, international travel, recognition for intellectual achievement, and, most importantly, the satisfaction of discovering just how far your abilities can take you. And, you would help make this possible? I would consider it an honor to support your development. Not because I want to control your choices or because I expect anything in return, but because I believe talent like yours deserves every chance to reach its potential. Zara was quiet again, and Marcus could see her weighing possibilities she'd never considered. When she spoke, her voice carried the maturity of someone who had already faced difficult decisions. I need to think about this. It sounds amazing, but it's also scary. What if I'm not as good as you think? What if I disappoint everyone? The only way you could disappoint me would be by not giving yourself the chance to find out what you're capable of. And even if the evaluation shows that Grandmaster titles aren't realistic, developing your abilities would still enrich your life in ways that go far beyond chess. How would this work practically? Where would I study? Where would I live? Marcus realized he'd been so focused on the chess aspects that he hadn't fully considered the logistics of Zara's situation. Those are important questions that we'd need to work out carefully. The academy I contacted has experience working with students from various backgrounds, and they'd help us develop a plan that addresses your specific needs. Can I ask you something, Marcus? Of course. Why is this so important to you? You don't really know me, and you certainly don't owe me anything. Marcus considered how to answer honestly without overwhelming her with the complexity of his motivations. Because I've spent my life building businesses and making money, and while that's been successful, it hasn't always felt meaningful. Yesterday, when I watched you play chess, I saw something that reminded me why I fell in love with the game in the first place. You approach each position with curiosity and creativity, like you're solving a beautiful puzzle rather than just trying to win. But it's more than that, isn't it? Her perceptiveness shouldn't have surprised him by now, but it did. Yes, it is. I think everyone deserves the chance to discover and develop their gifts. You clearly have extraordinary abilities, and it would be a tragedy if they went unexplored simply because you hadn't met the right people at the right time. And if I decide I want to try this evaluation, then we'd schedule it as soon as possible. Dr. Martinez from the Fisher Chess Academy is ready to arrange a comprehensive assessment, and International Master Petrov would work with us to understand exactly what your development path might look like. When would you need an answer? Take as much time as you need. This is your decision to make, and it should be based on what feels right to you, not on my enthusiasm or anyone else's expectations. Zara began packing up the chess pieces, handling each one with the same care she'd shown throughout their games. I think I'd like to try the evaluation, not because I'm sure about anything, but because I want to know what I'm really capable of. The Fisher Chess Academy occupied a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, its industrial exterior giving no hint of the intellectual intensity within. Marcus arrived early on the morning of Zara's evaluation, wanting to ensure everything was properly arranged before she faced what could be the most important day of her young life. The main playing hall contained dozens of chess boards arranged in precise rows, while smaller rooms housed individual coaching sessions and analysis areas equipped with computers running the latest chess software. Dr. Martinez met him in the lobby, carrying a folder thick with evaluation materials. "Mr. Wellington, everything is prepared for our assessment today. Master Petrov arrived an hour ago and has been setting up specific test positions. We've also arranged for 2 of our strongest youth players to serve as opponents, and our senior instructor will conduct the theoretical portions of the evaluation." "What exactly will the day involve?" Marcus asked, feeling protective nervousness on Zara's behalf. "We'll begin with tactical puzzles to assess calculation speed and pattern recognition. Then, she'll play 3 games against opponents of different styles and strengths. After lunch, we'll test positional understanding, in-game knowledge, and analytical skills. Finally, Master Petrov will introduce several advanced concepts to measure learning capacity and adaptation speed." Marcus nodded, understanding that this comprehensive assessment would reveal not just Zara's current abilities, but her potential for growth under proper instruction. "And you're confident this approach will give us accurate information?" "Mr. Wellington, we've been evaluating young chess talent for 15 years. This process has successfully identified students who went on to earn master titles as well as those who, despite initial promise, proved to have limitations that prevented significant advancement. By the end of today, we'll have a clear picture of what we're working with." When Zara arrived, punctually at 9 o'clock, Marcus was struck by how composed she appeared, dressed in clean but simple clothes, carrying the same worn backpack. She surveyed the academy's facilities with curiosity rather than intimidation. Her eyes took in the chessboards, the tournament posters on the walls, and the intense concentration of players engaged in training games. "This is incredible," she said quietly to Marcus. "I had no idea places like this existed." Dr. Martinez introduced herself to Zara with professional warmth. "Good morning, Zara. Marcus has told us quite a bit about your chess abilities, and we're very interested to see what you can do. Are you ready to begin?" "I think so. Should I be nervous?" "Only if nervousness helps you play better chess," Dr. Martinez replied with a smile. "Today is about discovery, not judgment. We want to understand your current skills and how you learn, so we can provide the best guidance about your development possibilities." The first test took place in a quiet room containing a single table with a chessboard and a clock. Master Petrov, a compact man with penetrating eyes, explained the tactical puzzle section. "Zara, I will show you chess positions where one side has a clear advantage, but you must find the specific moves to achieve it. Some puzzles may have multiple solutions, others only one. Take your time with each position, but I will note how quickly you solve them." Marcus watched through a one-way window as Petrov presented the first puzzle. Zara studied the position for less than 30 seconds before moving the pieces to demonstrate her solution. Petrov nodded and set up the next position. Problem after problem, Zara's responses came with consistent speed and accuracy, even as the puzzles became increasingly complex. "Remarkable pattern recognition," Dr. Martinez murmured to Marcus. "Most students require several minutes for problems she's solving in under a minute." After 45 minutes of tactical tests, Petrov emerged with notes covering multiple pages. His expression revealed nothing, but Marcus noticed the frequency of his writing had increased as the session progressed. "How did she perform?" Dr. Martinez asked. "Beyond expectations," Petrov replied simply. "I started with intermediate-level problems and progressed to positions that challenged strong tournament players. Her accuracy remained consistent throughout, and her solutions often demonstrated the most efficient approaches." The next phase involved games against academy students. Zara's first opponent was Michael, a 14-year-old rated just over 1600, a solid club-level strength. Marcus watched as they began with routine opening moves, but the game's character changed rapidly as Zara's pieces began coordinating in ways that created mounting pressure on Michael's position. "She's not playing like a beginner," Dr. Martinez observed as Zara executed a positional exchange sacrifice that improved her pawn structure while activating her remaining pieces. "That's a concept we typically don't introduce until students have been training for at least 2 years." The game concluded with Zara achieving a winning endgame through patient maneuvering that gradually transformed a slight advantage into decisive material gain. Michael, despite his experience and rating, had been consistently outplayed by strategic concepts he couldn't counter. Her second opponent was Sarah, a 16-year-old rated 1800 who had won several regional scholastic tournaments. This game took on a sharper character as Sarah attempted to create tactical complications that might level the playing field. Zara responded by simplifying into positions where her superior understanding of piece coordination and pawn structures gradually accumulated decisive advantages. "This is extraordinary, Dr. Martinez whispered to Marcus as Zara concluded her second victory. "Sarah has been training with us for 4 years and typically dominates players with less experience. Yet Zara is making the game look effortless." The third game paired Zara against David, an 18-year-old rated just over 2000, a level approaching expert strength. Marcus felt nervous watching this matchup, knowing that David represented a significant step up in opposition quality. For the first time all day, Zara faced an opponent who could match her strategic understanding and had years of tournament experience to draw upon. The game developed into a complex middle game where both players demonstrated sophisticated chess knowledge. David's experience showed in his handling of tactical complications, while Zara's natural feel for position gave her advantages in long-term planning. The position remained balanced for over an hour as both players maneuvered for small advantages. Then, in a position that appeared roughly equal, Zara found a sequence that Marcus later learned was computer perfect. A series of moves that transformed a balanced position into one with clear winning chances through precise calculation of variations extending 8 moves deep. David, despite his experience and rating, couldn't find adequate defensive resources against the mounting pressure. "How did she calculate that sequence?" Dr. Martinez asked Petrov, who had been observing the game closely. "I am not certain she calculated it in traditional sense," Petrov replied thoughtfully. "She seemed to understand intuitively which pieces needed to coordinate, and found the moves that accomplished that coordination. Very unusual approach, but obviously effective." After lunch, the afternoon session focused on positional understanding and theoretical knowledge. Zara analyzed master games, explained her thinking process, and demonstrated familiarity with concepts that surprised even the experienced instructors. When asked about pawn structures, she discussed their strategic implications with clarity that suggested deep understanding rather than memorized patterns. "Explain the concept of weak squares," Dr. Martinez requested during one analysis session. "Weak squares are holes in your position that your pawns can't control and your opponent's pieces can occupy," Zara replied immediately. "But it's not just about whether they exist. It's about whether your opponent can actually use them effectively and whether you can create counterplay that makes their occupation of those squares irrelevant." Marcus watched Dr. Martinez make extensive notes, clearly impressed by both the accuracy and sophistication of Zara's response. The final phase involved Master Petrov introducing advanced concepts that Zara had never encountered. He explained theories about piece coordination, showed her examples of Grandmaster games illustrating specific strategic themes, and then asked her to apply these new ideas to unfamiliar positions. This tests learning speed and adaptation. Dr. Martinez explained to Marcus. We're measuring how quickly she absorbs new information and whether she can use it practically. What they witnessed was remarkable. Concept after concept, Zara not only grasped the theoretical principles, but immediately began finding ways to apply them in the positions Petrov presented. When he showed her examples of minority attacks in queen's pawn structures, she quickly identified similar patterns in different positions and explained how the same strategic ideas could be implemented. She learns like a sponge, Petrov reported after the session concluded. I introduced 6 advanced strategic concepts this afternoon. Most students require weeks to truly understand one such concept. She absorbed all 6 and demonstrated practical application within hours. As the day wound down, Marcus felt exhausted from the emotional intensity of watching Zara's abilities being systematically revealed and documented. The evaluation had confirmed his instincts about her talent, while simultaneously demonstrating that her potential exceeded even his optimistic expectations. Dr. Martinez and Master Petrov requested a private meeting to discuss their findings. Marcus waited in the lobby while they compiled their assessment, watching Zara explore the Academy's library of chess books with the same focused curiosity she brought to everything chess-related. What did you think of today? Marcus asked her. It was incredible, Zara replied, her eyes bright with excitement. I learned more in one afternoon than I had in weeks of reading on my own. Master Petrov showed me ideas about piece coordination that I'd never considered, and playing against those students helped me understand what real competition feels like. Were you nervous during the games? A little at first, but once we started playing, it just felt like solving puzzles. Each position had its own logic, and finding the right moves felt like discovering the solution to something beautiful. When Dr. Martinez and Petrov emerged from their meeting, their expressions were serious but not somber. Dr. Martinez carried a comprehensive report, and Petrov held additional notes he'd compiled throughout the day. Mr. Wellington, Zara, would you join us in my office for a final discussion? The office overlooked the main playing hall, where evening training sessions were beginning. Marcus could see players of various ages engaged in serious study, their concentration evident even from a distance. He wondered whether this might become Zara's environment and how she would adapt to intensive training among other talented young players. Zara, Dr. Martinez began. Today's evaluation revealed abilities that are genuinely exceptional. Your tactical calculation, positional understanding, and learning capacity all demonstrate potential that we rarely encounter. Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he waited for the complete assessment. Your current playing strength appears to be approximately 1900 to 2000, despite having played seriously for less than a year. This represents development that typically requires 3 to 4 years of intensive training. Petrov leaned forward. More importantly, your learning speed and pattern recognition suggest capability for much higher achievement. With proper training and commitment, master-level play within 2 to 3 years appears realistic. Beyond that, he paused meaningfully. Grandmaster title is possible, though such achievement requires dedication that few players can maintain. Marcus looked at Zara, whose expression mixed excitement with the weight of newfound responsibility. The evaluation had confirmed what he'd suspected while revealing possibilities that exceeded his boldest hopes. What would this mean practically? Zara asked quietly. What would I need to do? Dr. Martinez opened her report. We'd recommend begin 6 months after that first encounter in Central Park. Marcus stood at the edge of the playing hall at the National Scholastic Chess Championships, watching Zara analyze her position in the final round. Her opponent, a seasoned tournament veteran 3 years her senior, had just played a move that created complications neither player had anticipated when the game began 4 hours earlier. The transformation in Zara had been remarkable to witness. The Academy's intensive training program had not only developed her natural abilities, but revealed depths of talent that continued to surprise even Master Petrov. She had progressed from an unknown beginner to a rated expert in 6 months, a development curve that challenged conventional understanding of chess improvement. She's found it, Dr. Martinez whispered beside Marcus as Zara's hand moved toward her queen with the confidence of someone who had calculated through to a winning conclusion. That position has been equal for the last 20 moves, but She's discovered the breakthrough that her opponent missed. Marcus watched as Zara executed a queen sacrifice that appeared to give away her most powerful piece for insufficient compensation. Her opponent studied the resulting position carefully, searching for the trap he knew must exist but couldn't identify. The tournament hall grew quiet as other games concluded, and spectators gathered around the remaining critical matches. Queen takes queen. Her opponent finally played, accepting the sacrifice while knowing it might be a mistake. Zara's response came without hesitation. Knight to f7, check. The move unleashed a cascade of tactical motifs that would force her opponent's king into a mating net. Within 6 moves, the position had transformed from apparent material deficit to decisive advantage. Brilliant calculation, Master Petrov commented as Zara's opponent extended his hand in resignation. She saw through 15 moves of tactical complexity to reach a winning endgame. Even with computer assistance, that sequence would be difficult to find. As applause filled the tournament hall, Marcus felt the deep satisfaction of witnessing potential transformed into achievement. The scared, uncertain girl from the park had become a confident young woman who approached chess's most challenging positions with creativity and determination that commanded respect from players decades her senior. The tournament director announced the final standings, confirming what everyone already knew. Zara had won the National Scholastic Championship in her age division, defeating opponents who had been training seriously for years longer than her 6 months of intensive study. More importantly, she had earned her final rating points needed to achieve National Master status, a title that typically required years of tournament experience to attain. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked as they sat in the quiet aftermath of the tournament's conclusion. "Exhausted, but happy," Zara replied, carefully packing the tournament set he'd given her months earlier. "Every game taught me something new, even the ones I thought would be routine." Master Petrov was right about needing strong competition to really improve. "Any regrets about the path you chose?" Zara considered the question seriously before answering. "Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if we'd never met. If I'd kept teaching myself chess from library books. But I can't imagine preferring that to this. The academy, the coaching, the tournaments, it's shown me possibilities I never knew existed." Over the months, Marcus had watched Zara navigate challenges that went far beyond chess improvement. The academy had provided not just training, but a structured environment that allowed her to focus on development without the survival concerns that had previously dominated her daily life. She had adapted to intensive study schedules, tournament travel, and the pressure of competing against established players with remarkable maturity. Dr. Martinez mentioned that several universities have expressed interest in chess scholarships. Marcus said as they walked toward the hotel lobby where other academy families were celebrating their students' achievements. "She told me about those opportunities. Full scholarships to study whatever I want while continuing chess development with their programs. A year ago, college wasn't even something I thought about as a possibility. And now I realize that chess has opened doors I couldn't have imagined. But more than that, it's taught me that I can learn anything if I approach it with the same focus and dedication I've brought to chess improvement." Marcus had watched this growth in intellectual confidence become one of the most significant changes in Zara's development. The analytical skills she'd cultivated through chess study had transferred to every area of her academic work. Her grades had improved dramatically as she applied the same systematic thinking that made her successful at chess to mathematics, literature, and science. "Master Petrov thinks I'm ready to start training for international competition," Zara continued. "The World Youth Championships are in 18 months, and he believes I could qualify for the United States team." "How do you feel about that possibility?" "Excited and terrified," Zara admitted with a laugh. "Playing against the strongest young players in the world would be incredible, but it would also mean another level of commitment and preparation." Marcus understood the magnitude of what she was contemplating. International chess at the youth level represented a pathway toward the sport's highest achievements. Success at that level could lead to grandmaster titles, professional chess careers, and recognition among the world's intellectual elite. It would also require sacrifices and dedication that would shape every aspect of her teenage years. "Whatever you decide, I want you to know how proud I am of what you've accomplished," Marcus said. 6 months ago, you were teaching yourself chess from library books. Today, you're a national master with opportunities that most players never receive. That transformation required courage, discipline, and commitment that went far beyond natural talent. I couldn't have done any of this without your belief in me, Zara replied. When you first suggested the evaluation, I was scared that everyone would discover I wasn't as good as you thought. Now I understand that your confidence gave me permission to find out what I was really capable of. As they joined the celebration in the hotel lobby, Marcus reflected on how this experience had changed his own perspective on success and satisfaction. His business achievements had brought wealth and recognition, but supporting Zara's development had provided a different kind of fulfillment, the knowledge that he had helped unlock potential that might otherwise have remained hidden. Dr. Martinez approached them with a tablet displaying the updated national ratings list. Zara, your tournament performance today has moved you into the top 50 players in your age group nationally. More importantly, your rating improvement over 6 months represents one of the steepest development curves in our academy's history. What happens next? Zara asked. That depends on your goals and commitment level. Master Petrov has outlined several development paths, ranging from continued regional tournament play to intensive international preparation. The choice is yours. Marcus watched as Zara absorbed the implications of having choices about her future that went far beyond survival and basic needs. The transformation from a homeless girl teaching herself chess to a nationally ranked player with multiple development options represented more than athletic achievement. It demonstrated the power of recognizing and nurturing human potential wherever it appeared. I think I'd like to try for international competition, Zara said after a moment of reflection. Not because I'm sure I can succeed, but because I want to find out how far this journey can take me. Master Petrov, who had been listening to their conversation, nodded approvingly. Ambitious goals require ambitious training. Are you prepared for what international level preparation involves? I think so. The last 6 months have taught me that I can adapt to higher levels of commitment when the opportunity justifies it. As the evening celebration continued around them, Marcus found himself thinking about the randomness of their initial encounter. A business executive seeking a moment of peace in the park, a young girl practicing chess on a worn board. 2 lives intersecting at exactly the moment when connection could transform both their futures. Marcus, Zara said as they prepared to leave the hotel, I have something I've been wanting to tell you. What's that? You asked me once why chess was important to you, and you explained how my approach reminded you of why you fell in love with the game. But I think our meeting changed something for both of us. How so? You showed me that extraordinary opportunities can come from the most unexpected places. And I hope I showed you that investing in someone's potential can be more rewarding than any business success. Marcus felt the truth of her observation. Supporting Zara's development had provided satisfaction that exceeded anything his corporate achievements had delivered. Watching her transform from hidden potential into recognized excellence had reminded him that the most meaningful investments were often measured in human flourishing rather than financial returns. So what's our next step? Marcus asked as they walked toward the car that would take them back to the academy. I keep working, keep improving, and see how far this talent you discovered can actually take me. And you keep being the person who believed in possibilities when no one else could see them. That sounds like a plan I can commit to. As they drove through the city toward the airport, Marcus reflected on how a simple decision to sit on a park bench had led to discoveries that changed everything. Zara's chess abilities had been just the beginning. Her intellectual curiosity, determination, and capacity for growth had emerged as her training progressed, revealing a young person capable of achievements that extended far beyond the chessboard. The girl who had once taught herself chess from library books was now preparing for international competition against the world's strongest young players. The businessman who had built his success through recognizing opportunity had discovered that the most valuable investments couldn't be measured in traditional financial terms. Their partnership had begun with curiosity about a chess game and evolved into something far more significant, a demonstration that potential exists everywhere, waiting for the right combination of recognition, support, and opportunity to flourish. What started as a chance encounter had become a testament to the transformative power of believing in human possibility, regardless of where it appears or how unlikely its circumstances might seem. As their plane lifted off toward home, Marcus looked over at Zara, who was already studying chess positions on her tablet, preparing for the next phase of a journey that had begun with a simple question about whether she'd like to play a game. The future remained unwritten, full of challenges and opportunities neither of them could fully anticipate. But they faced it together, bound by the shared understanding that extraordinary things become possible when talent meets opportunity, and when someone cares enough to help bridge the gap between the two. The story of the billionaire and the homeless chess prodigy had become something even more remarkable. The story of two people whose lives were transformed by recognizing that human potential deserves investment, regardless of the circumstances in which it's discovered. Their partnership continued, built on mutual respect, shared commitment to excellence, and the understanding that the most meaningful successes are those that lift others toward achievements they never thought possible. In the end, the chess games that brought them together had been just the beginning of a relationship that proved success could be measured not just in victories achieved, but in possibilities unlocked and potentials fulfilled. The park bench where it all started had become the launching point for a journey that neither could have imagined, but both were grateful to share. Ning with intensive coaching immediately. 4 to 5 hours daily of structured study, regular tournament play to gain rating and experience, and gradual introduction to increasingly strong competition. 4 to 5 hours daily, Zara repeated, clearly trying to understand the magnitude of the commitment being described. Championship-level chess requires championship-level dedication, Petrov explained gently. But for someone with your natural ability, this intensive training would accelerate development far beyond what typical players achieve. Marcus realized they had reached the moment when theoretical possibilities became practical decisions. Everything that followed would depend on choices made in the next few minutes, choices that could shape the entire trajectory of Zara's life. Marcus felt a surge of excitement mixed with responsibility. Are you certain? We can wait longer if you want more time to consider. No, I'm ready. If I have the talent you think I have, then I want to know about it. And if I don't, then at least I'll know that too. And I can adjust my expectations accordingly. Then, let's make it happen. I'll arrange everything and contact you with the details. Zara, I think you're about to embark on an incredible journey. As they prepared to leave the park, Marcus realized that this conversation had set in motion something that would change both their lives. For Zara, it might represent the beginning of a path toward chess mastery that could take her to heights she'd never imagined. For him, it offered the chance to be part of something meaningful in a way that all his business success had never provided. Walking away from the bench where they'd shared 2 remarkable games, Marcus felt the satisfaction of a decision well made. Tomorrow would bring challenges and uncertainties, but today had brought something even more valuable: the recognition that extraordinary potential deserved extraordinary support, regardless of where it was found. That evening, Marcus sat in his study, surrounded by chess books he'd ordered online and had delivered within hours. He studied games by child prodigies, read about training methodologies, and researched the life stories of players who had transformed from unknown talents into international champions. The more he learned, the more convinced he became that yesterday's encounter had been extraordinary. But he also understood the responsibility that came with his growing certainty about Zara's potential. If he was right about her abilities, then failing to provide proper development opportunities would represent a tragedy of wasted talent. If he was wrong, he could be setting up both of them for disappointment. As midnight approached, Marcus made his decision. Tomorrow he would return to the park, not just to play another game, but to begin a conversation that could change everything. The businessman in him recognized this as possibly the most important investment decision of his career, not because of financial returns, but because the stakes involved were measured in human potential rather than monetary profit. He spent the final hour before sleep planning his approach, considering how to present opportunities without creating pressure, how to evaluate talent without exploitation, and how to ensure that whatever developed would truly serve Zara's best interests rather than his own curiosity about her abilities. The next morning would mark the beginning of something unprecedented in his experience. A partnership based not on business advantage but on the simple recognition that extraordinary talent deserved extraordinary support, was witnessing. This wasn't just talent. This was the kind of rare ability that transformed entire fields when properly developed. In the corporate world, he'd learned to identify potential quickly, and what he saw in Zara's approach to chess suggested a mind capable of achieving things that went far beyond the 64 squares in front of them. As their first game drew toward its inevitable conclusion, Marcus realized that his afternoon walk through the park had led to something far more significant than he'd imagined. This wasn't just a casual game with an interesting young person. This was a glimpse into the kind of potential that could change everything. For Zara, for the chess world, and perhaps even for him. The final position arrived with stunning clarity. Zara's queen and rook had woven a mating net around his king that was as beautiful as it was unstoppable. Marcus stared at the board for a long moment, not in frustration but in genuine awe at the artistic nature of the position she'd created. "Checkmate," Zara said quietly, her voice containing no trace of arrogance, only the satisfaction of a puzzle well solved. Marcus extended his hand across the board. "That was extraordinary, Zara. Absolutely extraordinary." As they shook hands, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years, the excitement of discovering something truly special. The same instinct that had guided his most successful business decisions was now telling him that this encounter was just the beginning of something remarkable.